Hello and a very warm welcome to this special 10-year anniversary episode of the Successful Garden Design Show. Now in this episode we're going to have a look back at the highlights from the last 10 years, as well as I'm going to share my top 5 tips for how to avoid the biggest mistakes in garden design that I've learned from the last 10 years of teaching. If you're frustrated your garden doesn't look as beautiful as it could, even though you've purchased lots of lovely plants, then help is at hand. Plants are not enough. You have to have a good design layout. And when you combine design with the beauty of plants, that's when the magic really happens. It's our mission here at Successful Garden Design to show you how to do it. And it's much easier than you may think. I'm Rachel Matthews and I've been a professional international garden designer for over 25 years, and I teach garden design online. So it's hard to believe that Successful Garden Design is 10 years old, and it started in this very garden here. So this was the very first video I ever did. In this first video, you will see a survey of a small courtyard garden. Oh, bless, look at me. And I haven't aged at all. Anyway, you can see now that the garden has progressed, and so has Successful Garden Design. Now, before I give you my top 5 tips for how to avoid the biggest garden design mistakes, I'm going to give you a little bit of the backstory, because a lot of you wonder how this started. So back in the day, I used to have my own design and construction company, and we'd be building gardens all over the southeast of England, which meant I'd spend a ridiculous amount of time in the car, stuck in traffic, going from one team to another to see how they were getting on. And then if I wasn't stuck in traffic, I'd end up doing quotes. So it was a wonderful career as garden design is. When it came down to the practicalities of having a construction company as well as a design company, I just spent more hours doing the things I didn't want to do, i.e. being stuck in traffic, than I did at the drawing board. And after 15 years, I had had enough. And roughly at that time, a college in Cambridge approached me to see if I'd like to teach their adult learners garden design. And whilst I really liked the idea of that, I wasn't quite so keen on turning out for 10 weeks between 7:30 and 10:30 at night. So a few months later, it entered my head, I know, why don't I teach garden design online? And this is how Successful Garden Design was born. So I got myself on a teacher training course so I would know how to teach adult learners. And just before I was about to launch my very first garden design course, I happened to run into the head of a very prestigious garden design college. And when he learned what I was planning on doing, he was, let's say, less than enthusiastic. It was kind of, you're going to be teaching the general public garden design? He didn't say, are you mad? But it was kind of implied. It was like, no, it's far too complicated a subject for the average person to comprehend. And I was thinking, no, it's not. It really isn't. I mean, he's right in the way that traditional college courses and books teach design. They make it incredibly complicated because they don't tell you how. They end up teaching you nothing but theory. And when something's very abstract, it makes it very difficult. So even though I was a qualified garden designer when I first started, I actually had to teach myself how to design a garden because that bit had been missing from my college course. So over the years, I actually developed a formula because I realised that the shape of garden you have plays a massive factor with what you do. And design is all about how you arrange the shape, the masses to the voids. So a long, narrow garden, for example, needs to make it look wider. A wide, shallow garden, you need to make it look longer. Awkward shaped gardens, you need to take the eyes away from those awkward angles. So with that formula in mind, it makes learning design much easier. I must admit, him saying it couldn't be done, although I was pretty sure it could, I didn't have high expectations after that conversation. I just thought, oh well, people having some form of guidance from a professional is bound to help them a little bit. But actually what I've discovered is that the designs people have come up with absolutely blew my mind. So let's take a look at some of the Successful Garden Design students. Now, I'm not going to spend long on this because we have covered them in previous shows. And these are all gardens that complete amateurs have done with absolutely no previous garden design experience. So it just goes to show you the power is in the formula. And when you learn a formula for something, it takes a good 10 years off the learning curve.
But what's even better about having a formula is that it works absolutely anywhere in the world. So this garden, Sam's garden, is in England, and then we move over to Zach's garden in South Africa. And you can see here he started out with quite a blank canvas, and the garden really got completely transformed. And here's the same garden from slightly different angles. So you can see Zach did a great job with this one. And here's another tiny little student garden, and this one here is Sander's garden, and he's in Holland. And then here we've got Rebecca's garden in Costa Rica. And as you can see, she's inherited this really awkward shaped pond that was too expensive to get rid of. So they had to leave it in place and do a design around it. And you can see that she's managed to completely transform quite an awkward and ugly space into a really beautiful garden. And then here's one of our successful garden designer favourites, and that's Ingrid from Canada. And she was 68 when she did our course, and she built the entire garden herself. And it just goes to show what you can do when you apply the garden design formula that we teach here at Successful Garden Design.
And if you'd like to do one of our garden design courses as a celebration of our 10-year anniversary, if you enter the coupon code 10 years, all in capitals and no spaces, into any of the purchase pages of any of the courses, you'll get a 10% discount until the end of October. Okay, so in the last 10 years of teaching, these next few tips are what I've found to be the most beneficial to help people not make the biggest mistakes in garden design. Now, the first one is very controversial, and people absolutely hate me when I say this, but plants are not the answer to creating a gorgeous garden. I know, shoot me now. I know, but they're not. Plants are the icing on the cake. They're the finishing touch. They are not the cake itself. Unless you have a good design structure in place first, plants alone, you are most of the time just wasting your money. You need to shape the space, which brings us on to tip number 2. And I've already mentioned this earlier, it's the shape of your garden. You've got to put the right shapes that make the most of the available space. And then once you've done that, once you've got the bones in place, then you can put the plants in, and then you'll create a lovely garden. But unless you've got that design layout going, then you really are on a hiding to nothing by filling your garden with plants and features. So that's the key to your success. Now, another thing that I've noticed a lot of people do is they get really hung up on the details before they have worked out what they need to do to make the best use of space in the garden. They're sort of thinking about their water feature or their pergola or where they're going to put the bins, or they're getting hung up on, oh, there's a change in levels and this is awkward and that's wrong and I've got to do this and that's in the way. They get so full of all of those details that it actually inhibits them designing. Now, when I'm designing a garden, I don't think of any of that. I purely start playing with shapes to get the space arranged properly first. And 9 times out of 10, funnily enough, it just happens to take care of most of the problems. It becomes obvious where to put the shed. It becomes obvious how to tackle the changes in level. So it's remarkable that just doing one simple thing of making the most of your shape and size garden with the design shapes that you use, it solves a tremendous number of other design problems. So if you find yourself worrying about all of those details, in the words of Bob Newhart, stop it. Do not worry about details, not at the beginning. Now, the devil is in the details, but at the end. So to begin with, make your life as simple as possible by focusing on the shapes that you use. And the way you do that is the next tip. Get a plan. Get your ideas down on paper, or if you're going to use a computer to help you design, your tablet, whatever device you're using, get your ideas down on paper, because when you see that aerial view, that plan view, you're able to see the whole garden in one go. And good design interlinks. It's not a series of unrelated parts, which is the mistake that most people make. They think, oh, I'd like a patio here, I'd like a pond there, a gazebo over there, and nothing links. When you look at the garden, it all looks like they've just landed from outer space, and that never produces coherency. So having that plan view that aerial view, it enables you to see the whole garden as one go, as one entity, and you can design it in one go. And that's the key, another key to success. And my final tip is to completely ignore the advice that college professor gave me that garden design is far too complicated for the average person. It's not if you follow a design formula. So feel empowered when you design your garden. Don't feel overwhelmed by it all, because there's no need. You can do a good job. I've seen hundreds of people all over the world do amazing things with their garden just by following a simple formula. I found that although these courses were initially designed for homeowners, I've ended up creating a professional level course because so many landscape and garden design professionals ended up taking my courses as a refresher and to improve upon their garden design skills, because they weren't taught how to design a garden in college either. So I know these courses work for complete amateurs and help professionals, but what's interesting is the amateurs with no previous design experience usually progress far quicker than the professionals, and that's because they follow the formula step by step. They haven't got all of that other stuff in their head of how to design a garden. So as a complete amateur, if you've never designed a garden before, do feel empowered. You absolutely can, and you can have the satisfaction of having done it yourself and created the garden you've always dreamed of. So it's absolutely possible, and like I say, if you'd like a discount on any of our garden design courses, just enter the coupon code 10 years, all capital letters, no spaces, for the whole of October. You'll get 10% off. And as part of our 10-year anniversary, we have completely upgraded to a brand spanking new members area that hosts all of our content. So the courses are even easier to access now, and you can access them on any portable device as well. So thank you so much to everyone who's purchased a course and has kept Successful Garden Design going these last 10 years. Your support has been amazing. All the blog posts that you've shared, the likes, the comments, sending me pictures of your garden, it just brings me so much joy to see what you are able to do when you follow the design formulas. So please keep on sending me photographs of your gardens, because I absolutely love to see how they've turned out. So before we go, let me give you a quick guided tour of how this garden has fared in the last 10 years.
So whilst October isn't the best month for the garden, it's still not looking too bad. Unfortunately, we haven't got our lovely big hibiscus this time of year. It's been cut back, so there's a massive gap there. And we have lost the lavenders, unfortunately. That is the one downside about not being around all year and having to rely on irrigation systems. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But all in all, it's not too bad. The Fatsia, the variegated Fatsia, is absolutely loving it, as is the Plumbago. Now, there is a mirror that's meant to be reflecting back the entire garden, but as you can see, the Plumbago has more or less eaten it. So when that's finished flowering, we're going to have to give that a good old cut back, but everything's really taken off, as you can see, and the passion flower here is really loving it, and Pittosporum, that's not doing too badly, but all in all it's fared pretty well, and it's given me a lovely place to film all my videos, which is very helpful. And it gives us a nice place to sit and get out of all this hot Spanish sun, because it has been ridiculously hot. But I must say, it's lovely to come back here in October and to be able to swim in the sea. So there you go, that's how it's transformed over the last 10 years.
And here's to another 10 years. Cheers. It is just water, but hey. It's alkaline water, it's very special.